We spend so much of our lives suiting up, not in real armor, but the kind we craft from perfectionism, sarcasm, silence, overachieving, anything that keeps people from seeing who we really are. And let's be honest, it works. For a while, that armor keeps us safe from judgment, rejection, and shame, but it also keeps us distant, disconnected, and worst of all, unseen. When you show up without the armor, just once, you'll feel like you're walking into the room without skin, raw, exposed. But here's the thing, that's exactly where the magic begins. Because the moment you let down the walls, even a little, people lean in. They notice, they soften, they see you. Not the curated version, not the highlight reel, not the polished mask, you. And that changes how they treat you. Vulnerability invites authenticity, it disarms defensiveness, it builds bridges faster than charm or charisma ever could, and it's contagious. Showing up without the armor might look like saying, I don't know in a meeting. It might be telling a friend, I'm not okay today. It might be choosing to speak your truth instead of what's easy. It's scary, it's brave, and it's how we become the kind of people others trust, respect, and are deeply drawn to. Here's the secret. People can't connect to the armor. They can only connect to the human underneath. So just try it once. Drop the performance, let your guard down, be seen, and then watch how people begin to treat you not just differently, but more gently, more respectfully, more like the real you deserves to be treated. Let me expand the next key point too. There comes a moment when your peace becomes more important than pleasing others. That moment is called a boundary. But let's get real. Most of us weren't taught how to set them. We were taught to be nice, to be agreeable, to keep the peace, even if it costs ours. And so we smile when we want to scream. We say sure when we mean absolutely not. We apologize for taking up space. But boundaries aren't walls. They're not about shutting people out or being harsh. They are the clearest expression of self-respect you'll ever give the world. And when you speak them, not hint at them, not imply them, not whisper them, but speak them clearly. Something powerful happens. People start treating you differently. Why? Because clarity is kindness. And when you are clear about what's okay and what's not okay, you give others a map for how to love and respect you well. You stop being a moving target. You stop abandoning yourself to keep everyone else comfortable, and you begin to attract relationships where mutual respect isn't just expected, it's the norm. Here's the truth. People don't violate your boundaries because you're unworthy. They often do it because they don't know where the line is, or they've gotten used to you hiding it under layers of it's fine, no worries. When you say, that doesn't work for me, or I'm not available for that right now, or you teach people who you are. And you give them the choice to rise or fall in how they show up for you. Not everyone will love it. Some will push back, some might leave, but those who stay, those who honor what you've said, are the people worth building a life with. So speak your boundaries with courage and compassion, not with armor, but with grounded clarity, not to hurt others, but to honor yourself. You're not too much. You're not too sensitive. You're just finally choosing to be honest about your limits. And there is nothing more powerful than that. I want to keep going with the next one. Own your story, every messy bit. We all have stories we don't want to tell, chapters we wish we could edit, decisions we regret, but still carry the scars from. And for so long, many of us try to outrun those stories. We shove them in the dark corners of our memory, cover them up with achievement, or bury them beneath busyness. But here's the truth no one tells you loud enough. The parts of your story you're most ashamed of are often the very ones that make you most human. And the moment you stop hiding them, the moment you say, yes, this happened, and yes, it shaped me, you do something radical. You reclaim your power. When you own your story, every messy bit, you stop being held hostage by shame. You stop letting other people narrate your worth. You walk back into your life with your head held high, not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. This doesn't mean shouting your pain from every rooftop. It means you no longer shrink in the face of it. It means you stop apologizing for surviving, because you know what happens when you finally say, this is me, broken and beautiful, flawed and learning, healing and still here? People around you exhale. They realize they're not alone in their mess either. And suddenly your courage gives others permission to stop pretending. Let me be clear, owning your story isn't always comfortable. You'll have moments when your voice shakes, when your inner critic starts shouting, but that's okay. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's choosing honesty in the presence of it. You don't need to be perfect to be respected. You don't need to be polished to be lovable. You just need to be true. So own your mistakes, own your resilience, own the hard things you've walked through and how you rose anyway. Because when you stop hiding the truth of who you are, you stop settling for surface level connections. You start building relationships rooted in something real. And trust me, when people see that kind of bravery, they don't just treat you differently, they treat you with the kind of reverence reserved for those who've done the work of becoming fully, unapologetically themselves. Ready for the next one? We can dive into lead with empathy, not performance, if you'd like. Fear of being overlooked, fear of being truly seen and possibly rejected. We hustle for approval like it's oxygen, and slowly we forget what it's like to simply be instead of constantly trying to prove. But what if I told you there's another way to lead? A way that doesn't rely on performance, but on presence. Not on perfection, but on empathy. Because here's what empathy does. It meets people where they are, not where they wish they were. It stops trying to fix and starts truly listening. Creates space for real connection in boardrooms, classrooms, living rooms, everywhere. Empathy says, I'm with you. It says your feelings make sense to me. It says you don't have to hide the hard stuff here. When you lead with empathy, instead of trying to impress, something shifts. People lean in, they feel safe, they let their own guard down. Because you're not performing, you're being present. You stop being the person who talks the most in the room and start being the one people trust the most. You become the calm in the chaos, the human in the hierarchy, the one who can hold space for both accountability and compassion. And here's the wild thing. The respect you were performing for, you start to earn it naturally. Not because you were flawless, but because you were real. Performance can get attention, but empathy, it earns loyalty, trust, and respect that no amount of hustle ever will. So next time you feel the urge to impress, try this instead. Pause, take a breath, make eye contact, ask someone how they're really doing, and actually listen. Because when you choose empathy over ego, presence over performance, people don't just treat you differently, they remember you. They trust you. They follow you, not because you dazzled them, but because you saw them and made them feel seen too. Want to keep going. Next up is refuse to hustle for your worth. Let me know when you're ready. From a young age, so many of us are taught this subtle but dangerous lie. You have to earn your worth, be the best, be useful, be easy to love, be successful, smart, beautiful, impressive. Then maybe you'll be enough. So we hustle, we people please, we strive, endlessly chasing validation like a finish line that keeps moving. And in the quiet moments, when no one's clapping, we feel empty. But let me tell you something that might just change everything. You don't have to hustle for your worth. You already have it. Your worth isn't a reward for good behavior. It's not a prize for perfection. It's your birthright. The second you stop tying your value to what you produce, perform, or prove, you begin to live differently. You start making decisions that honor your soul, not just your resume. You say no to things that drain you. You stop over-explaining yourself. You rest without guilt. You realize that love, respect, and belonging aren't things you chase. They're things you choose by the way you treat yourself. And here's the real shift. When you stop hustling to be worthy, people start treating you as if you are, not because you finally became enough, but because you started believing it yourself. People feel it when you walk into a room anchored in your own value. There's no grasping, no neediness, no show, just a quiet confidence that says, I know who I am, and I don't need to convince you. And that kind of presence, it's magnetic. You stop attracting people who love you for your utility and start connecting with people who love you for your humanity. So pause, breathe, drop the hustle. You don't have to be extraordinary to be worthy. You just have to be honest, whole, and here. And when you show up like that, even once, you'll be stunned at how differently people respond to you. Because the world doesn't need more perfect. It needs more people who are real, people who've remembered that worth isn't something you chase, it's something you come home to. Shall we finish with the last point? Celebrate others without shrinking yourself is next, and it's a powerful one. There's something powerful, almost revolutionary, about a person who can celebrate others without questioning their own light. But let's be honest, that's not always easy. We scroll through highlight reels on social media. We hear about promotions, engagements, dream homes, perfect vacations, and somewhere deep down, a little voice whispers, you're falling behind, you're not enough. And in those moments, we have a choice. We can shrink, we can compare, we can make ourselves small in the presence of someone else's success, or we can do something braver. We can stand tall in who we are and applaud who they are, because someone else's light doesn't dim yours. It's not a competition, it's not a scoreboard, it's a symphony. And your voice still matters. When you genuinely celebrate others, something shifts in the energy between you. You become the kind of person people feel safe around, someone who lifts others without losing themselves, someone who cheers loudly because your confidence isn't fragile, it's rooted. And let's be clear, celebrating others without shrinking yourself doesn't mean ignoring your own needs or pretending you're not struggling. It means holding space for both truths. I'm proud of you, and I'm still finding my way. You're doing great and still figuring things out. That's not jealousy, it's humanity. You don't have to hide your wins to make others comfortable. You don't have to mute your voice to keep the peace. And you don't have to pretend to be smaller just to make someone else feel bigger. When you own your brilliance and celebrate theirs, you're showing the world that confidence and kindness can live in the same body. That love doesn't divide, it multiplies. And the people around you, they notice, they feel that energy. They respond differently, because being in the presence of someone who's comfortable with their own light and still chooses to reflect and amplify others is rare, and it's unforgettable. So don't shrink, don't dim. Stand tall, shine bright, and clap loud, because when you celebrate others without losing yourself, you become someone who makes every room feel more honest, more generous, and more whole. You don't have to wait a lifetime to be treated differently. You don't need a new job, a new body, a new relationship, or a louder voice. You just need to choose differently once. Show up without the armor. Speak your boundaries clearly. Own your story, even the messy chapters. Lead with empathy, not performance. Refuse to hustle for your worth, and celebrate others without shrinking yourself. Just once, try it once and watch. Watch how people soften around you, how they listen more closely, how they meet you with the same honesty, respect, and presence you've offered them. Because when you start showing up as the truest version of yourself, unpolished, unafraid, and unapologetic, the world takes notice. And it's not because you became someone new, it's because you finally stopped hiding who you've been all along. So take the risk, choose courage over comfort, and show the world what happens when you decide to belong fully to yourself first. Do this once, and everything starts to shift.